Hey, welcome to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley. Everything in this video can be found on a public domain and the full disclaimers down below. Lots of love and many blessings your way. I was asked to look into this, and I have before in the past, but this time I found something a little more peculiar. In 2015, a video went viral. It was a man escaping the Buckingham Palace on what looks to be several sheets tied together. Now, the tourists that took this video were shocked. They didn't know what they were looking at. You could clearly hear them gasping, and then at the end, they just chuckled. They didn't have any other response but to laugh, which I found so weird. This story was in all sorts of tabloids, and nobody seemed to have rhyme or reason. They couldn't figure it out. And it was shortly thereafter, all of these generic websites started popping up, trying to take ownership of this. And of course, Snopes decided they were going to debunk it. And of course, all they could say was, "We debunked it. This was a hoax." They provided no sort of receipts, no sort of evidence. All of the generic websites that popped up, they closed down just as fast as they appeared. I found one that was left. If you want to check it out for yourself, it's called Fred and Bella. It's very generic, and all it says is we asked a couple of tourists to film this for us for the show The Royals, which has been since canceled, and it was a show that was on E! And it's titled The Naked Escape. However, I have looked through every one of those shows, and this bit is nowhere to be found. And like I said, these tourists were gasping, didn't know how to react. They were watching it. They were giggling and laughing. They were really baffled, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever if they had been asked to shoot this. And let me say, a production team has all sorts of tricks. They have the best equipment. They would have never had to ask random strangers to shoot this bit, ever. So I don't buy that at all. That doesn't even make sense to me.
Jag är naken. Filmar du det här eller?
I looked a little further into what they're calling the naked escape bit. They're trying to say that for the show, this guy was trying to get away where he was having an affair with a married royal woman. Okay, so say this was real and he was trying to escape because he's having an affair and here comes the husband. What would the red whelps all over the back end of this man be from? He is so clearly covered in red whelps. If you look closely, they're on his back, they're on his butt, they're on the back of his legs. It doesn't mention any sort of 50 Shades type stuff. This is just some guy trying to get away from so-and-so's husband. None of it makes sense, and I've since found this out. That was actually taken in 2013, not 2015. It had just been released in 2015. And a whole lot of was happening during 2013. 2010 to 2013 were big years for Andrew and Sarah. They were in the thick of things with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. FBI claims to have documentation proving that they were on Epstein's islands or a ranch, the mansion that Epstein owns in Manhattan. This is the same time period they were hanging with Nygaard. In fact, a former police officers made claims that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell sent both men and women to the palace quite often, during these years especially. And if you look at a map of their private apartments, it seems like Andrew's is the window. In 2013, they hosted several parties that included Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Harvey Weinstein. Y'all, that's the same year this video was said to have been taken, of this man shimmying out that window. And in 2013, something really strange happened, according to the police of Buckingham Palace. It was just getting dark, and they spotted a guy in the gardens at the Buckingham Palace. He was acting really strange, pacing back and forth like he was looking around, waiting on somebody. And they approached this guy and apprehended him, and they started questioning him, and it turned out to be Prince Andrew, and they've since said that was a very strange evening for them. He acted nervous, as if he had been caught. Of course, these police officers feared for their jobs. So in the end, Andrew said he accepted their apologies. And in 2013, the same year this video was said to have been taken, Andrew made a trip over to Vietnam, passing out certificates for the Prince Andrew Scholarship Program. Each of these students received a certificate showing that they had been awarded the Prince Andrew Scholarship Program 2013, which was managed by the university, which entitled them to more than $28,400 used to cover their tuition for foundation and undergraduate courses, in addition to traveling costs, racked up by going to this scholarship interview process, which Prince Andrew himself was a part of. He's the furthest thing in the world from a scholar, in my opinion. Who in the world is he to sit down during this interview process? Anyway, that entire week he had been on the move. That was an act of deliverance on the Queen's end. I believe in my heart of hearts she was trying to protect Andrew, because the FBI had already asked to speak with him that entire month, and he was just far too busy. Now, the first part of this trip, he had a traveling companion. It happened to have been none other than Ghislaine Maxwell. She made it back just in time for the end of September symposium. I never understood why she would be with him at all on any business trips. I noticed something very strange in these pictures of him handing out these certificates. There was a young man in the background who sort of favored the guy trying to escape out of the window at Buckingham Palace. Hey, not another thing's ever been mentioned about this young guy that fell off of this bedsheet rope. They worked mighty hard trying to prove this to be a hoax. I just hope whoever it was, they're okay today, but I doubt it. Andrew and Sarah have been messing with these people for years. This picture was taken in 2002 of Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell sitting on the thrones in the throne room, which is a huge no-no. This tour was set up with Andrew by none other than Bill Clinton. All of these people are involved in the same exact thing. Don't sit there and think for a second just because they're politicians, just because they're judges, just because they're princes, that they have nothing to do with this stuff, because they're all in the thick of this. I thought it was funny when all of this hit the fan recently. Courtney Love was one of the loudest to give her testament of what happened, acting as if she had clean hands, and Andrew was just some crazy sex fiend who happened to have shown up at her house in the middle of the night looking for sex, and not with Courtney Love, keep in mind. So that right there tells me she's involved too, some way, somehow. This female that Courtney's arms draped over, who is she? And is she built like a woman? Does she look like a grown woman to you? So I believe the FBI need to start questioning Courtney Love also. And there stands Andrew, trying to get the information, pen and paper in hand. Yet Courtney Love wants to act like she had nothing to do with anything. I don't know why he ended up at my house in the middle of the night, looking for sex from somebody else. It's been no secret that Courtney Love is always front and center with these sex parties with Branson and Leslie Wexner and Ron Burkle. Of course he's going to end up at her house. Where else would he go? And if you're not familiar with Ron Burkle by now, he's the owner of the Soho House, where Marcus Anderson just so happens to be a pretty big deal. Ron Burkle just so happens to be pretty tight with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, as well as the Obamas. I guess that's another reason why I've always had a hard time believing that Meghan had no clue who Andrew was going into this marriage. You don't run with the same crowd and not know one another. It just doesn't work out that way. And it's all going to come out. Ghislaine Maxwell's been captured. It's going to come out unless she ends up dead, in which I've been told that the Queen has ordered a hit on her. Just so we know. She's desperate to save her little boy. Every one of them are garbage. I don't even know what their use, their purpose is on this planet. I hate to say that, it sounds nasty, but that's just how I feel. They've caused a lot of damage to a lot of people. As for the guy hanging on the bedsheet coming out the window, I still find it strange that Ghislaine went with Andrew on his first part of this Vietnam trip, and I find it strange that this young man favors the one coming out the window, and they've put too much energy into trying to make this out to be a hoax. People don't work that hard for no reason. But I'm a firm believer anything we do in this world that's negative, that's wrong, will catch up with us, and this will catch up with them. So I'll see you soon and we'll talk fast. Y'all stay safe and be blessed.